Hey y'all, welcome back to Realizations. Today I just want to give you a really quick little video about some tips and tricks to trusting your intuition, to learning how to listen to yourself, and understanding you have everything you need. Somewhere along the way, we've been conditioned to believe that we do not have the information and the tools that we need, and that we must seek them. We must find everything that we need in order to become who we desire to be. But that's actually the part that gets us really off track. We look for answers in others. We mimic things that we see. We try to mirror what we want our lives to be off of what we think we know. We're not actually listening to our internal guide. We're listening to logic and fear and what we've experienced, what we've seen. What happens when we do that is something that we typically don't even understand. We don't even know that it's happening until we start to undo that all. We are literally creating a belief system around all of this outside information, around all of these external sources. And those things seal in beliefs for us that don't align with what we want, what we desire, where we want to go, who we want to be. And so we end up feeling this endless game of unalignment. It is like tug of war within yourself with the external world. What you want doesn't seem possible. It doesn't seem realistic. It doesn't seem right. We chase the wrong things so hard in the wrong direction, and then we get so upset when it doesn't work out like we actually internally want it to, and we don't understand why. So many of us hide things about ourselves away, and we don't even realize we do it. We don't want to be rude. We don't want to offend. We don't want to hurt. So we watch what we say. We lessen our curiosity. We lessen our light. We lessen everything about us, trying to keep it easy. Walk the line. Make sure people like us. Make sure we don't get fired. Make sure we don't lose a partner or a friend or a family. We try so hard for each other, but we don't try that hard for ourselves. I've seen this so much everywhere, where we are just trying so hard to be what we assume is needed for others, for life, for every part of this world, for living. And when we finally do something for ourselves, it's so interesting how quickly guilt pours in, or doubt, or fear, or we try to, oh, no, brush it off. It's fine. We try to downplay what we need for ourselves. And then one day we wake up and life just doesn't really feel that fun. And it doesn't really feel like we're living. And if you're like me, you feel really lost, really drained, so burnt out. You need a new word for burnout. And you have no idea where to even start to get that back on track. Were you ever even on track? Everything just seems wrong. And if you're like me, that is where you start jumping into this path to inner healing. You start seeking out courses, classes, options, people, anything that will expand your mind and change the way that you've been living. You're just desiring so much to see another way of how to do things. And when you start healing, I have never met anyone that has skipped this phase where you see everything differently. You see all the moments in your life where if something wouldn't have happened, or if something would have been done differently, or someone would have been kinder, or whatever it was, whatever that moment was, those moments, because there's a lot of them, you would have been an entirely different person. And it makes you so angry at everything that has happened to you. Mine was mine was a lot. It was a series of things, and it was just like one after the other, like dominoes, just boom. And then I got to one of the biggest ones, which was being bullied by somebody very close to me. And he pulled me off a ladder when I was a kid, and I hit my head on a concrete block and knocked myself out. And I just found out not too long ago, just within the last few years, that when that happened, my brain rotated and it cut off all of this. And that is where my hearing loss came from. That is where my whole body pain came from. That is where my learning disabilities came from. And I have this thing where even if you're speaking to me crystal clear, it's not just hearing loss, it's with my brain. It's an actual traumatic brain injury that happened. And so sometimes if someone is talking to me and I don't know what we are talking about, or it's like words, places, things that I have never heard before, my brain can't make them make sense. And so it just sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher, just a bunch of sounds. And there's nothing I can do to make them make sense through words. If you write it down, okay, now my brain can pick it up. I can start to process it. But it's really hard for me to connect it. And that caused me a lot of issues growing up. Especially when, even now that I have a name for it, I know what I'm looking at. I know a lot more than I did then. And there's no resources. And the only resources that I can find cost astronomical amounts of money, and there's like one person that can do it and they're booked out forever. It's just insane. We don't have any resources that I need. And it made me really angry, because if that person wouldn't have been a dick, my whole life would have been better. Everything about my life was great, except for that person, for a long, long time. If I would have been able to hear, oh my God, my life would be so different if I could hear. If I didn't have to work so hard and struggle so hard. And I got really sad for my little self dealing with all of this all alone. And I got really angry at that person. And that person actually had the audacity to say to me that I didn't understand what it was like having to grow up around hearing loss. I wanted to strangle him. Like, I really wanted to just choke him for a minute and yell in his face and be like, this is all your fault. I was so angry. I literally had to cut ties with so many people in my life because I was so angry. And then at the same time as I was going through all of these big big breakthroughs in all of these sad, hard spaces, COVID had happened and we had the mask mandate, and I couldn't read lips any longer or body language, and I didn't have any of my tools that I had been so reliant on getting through life. All of a sudden I couldn't work. All of a sudden I couldn't be in public. I couldn't communicate with anyone. It was absolutely horrific and terrifying, and the most isolating experience I have had yet in my entire life. And I've been through some things, but that one crushed my soul. It sent me into depression in a way that I had never felt before. And my audiologist told me, just get on disability for a little bit. It'll get you through. You can find your way, you know, this is new for all of us, just apply. For 5 years, I went back and forth with disability. They told me wonderful things like disability doesn't require, or they don't, that wasn't it. They said, I'm sorry, it makes me so angry just thinking about it still working to let this go. The program that was designed for exact moments like this, for people exactly like me, told me that they did not consider hearing loss a disability. The federal level in Virginia told me that on the phone. I made her repeat it 3 times. I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I could not believe that she was telling me that hearing loss is not a disability when it is actually the exact definition if you Google that. And she wouldn't slow down to speak to me. She wouldn't be clear. A 5-minute phone call took us almost 45 minutes because I had to just keep asking her, what? Please slow down. Please slow down. I can't hear you. You're mumbling. You're talking away from the phone. Like, it was horrendous. And I finally said, if I can't even talk to the disability office, how do you expect me to talk to anyone else? And she said, I don't know. Thanks. Then I went to a court hearing where we had to do it like this, and the job specialist came on, but she was on a phone call, so I couldn't see her mouth. I couldn't read her lips, and I asked the judge to repeat a few things for me, and he literally said to me that he would kick me out of my own hearing if I didn't stop talking. The only time I talked was asking them to repeat information that I didn't hear. They wouldn't repeat it. They didn't have any interpreters. They had no captions. They had nothing for me that I could use. It was so defeating. And then he told me, I'm too deaf to work. They have no jobs for me. But I'm not deaf enough for disability. And that's how they ended it. So for 5 years, I went back and forth, getting my hopes up and getting crushed. I got to the point where I couldn't afford the roof over my head. I couldn't afford anything. I had depleted all of my resources, and I had no idea how I was going to survive. I was applying at job after job after job and being honest about my hearing loss, and they wouldn't even call me back. I had never in my life had that happen. I have gotten hired at every job I've ever wanted. And the job that I did have, one of them let almost the entire company go because they were struggling to stay open. The other one no longer had any events or bartending. It was all closed down. The other one straight up told me that they wouldn't work with me with my hearing loss anymore. If I couldn't do more jobs that they wanted me to do that was not what I was hired to do, then I was fired. And when I asked them if they were firing me over my hearing loss and they heard lawsuit, They ghosted me for 3 weeks, just had me showing up for work, would not reach back out to me, would not anything, kept promising me meetings with HR to get a clear answer on this, and then just ghosting me. And then one day they kicked me out of my account and wouldn't speak to me any longer. That's how they let me go. They were too much of a coward to tell me that they were letting me go because of my hearing loss. And it was absolutely insane. And I just felt like there's no way I could take another hit. There's no way I'm coming back from all this debt, from all this hardship. And while all of this is going on, I had these people that were really important to me in my life that were just being horrendous. I was trying everything I could to get my business up off the ground so that I didn't just completely go under. And instead of supporting me, they laughed at me, they made fun of me, they made posts about me, they talked about me constantly behind my back. They made sure I knew just how much they didn't believe in me or care about me or any of it. And I felt so disgusted with the world. I felt so let down with how everybody was. And it felt so unfair because I would never do any of these things to anybody. I was just working my butt off. I was just trying my hardest, and I was being a really nice human to everybody around. And I just kept getting kicked. I cried a lot. I threw a lot of wood pallets into the fireplace, and I beat the crap out of them with a baseball bat. That felt so good. I wrote a lot. I got depressed a lot. And then one day I just said, this is what's happening. There's only 2 ways to be happy, and it's to change what's happening or to change your mindset about it. And I couldn't change what was happening, but I could change my mindset about it. And I changed my mindset about it. I got really honest about what was happening, and I got really honest about my reactions with what was happening. And that changed everything for me in every area of my life. Now when I listen to my intuition, I don't sugarcoat it and act like, oh, this is going to be all rainbows and butterflies. This is going to be great. This is the path to peacefulness and happiness and just frolicking in the field. I understand that the path is going to be hard. It's going to challenge me. It's going to scare the crap out of me. It's going to be filled with things I didn't see coming. It's going to be nothing like I assumed. And that's okay. That's okay. I don't want the easier path. I want the path that makes me feel the most myself. And if my life has showed me anything at all, it's that no matter what I have been through, I fight my way through it. And not only do I make it through it, but I find beauty everywhere. And I find ways to say, hey, look at all this that I found here. And I show other people, and I show them a new way. And I show people the way you're doing it isn't how you have to do it. You can really change this. And I have changed so many lives, and those lives have changed me so deeply. We are connected forever, and y'all know who you are. If you're seeing this, y'all know who you are. There's always beautiful things, even in the darkest, deepest times of despair. If we're looking for the things that are bad, of course we're going to see them. They're everywhere. They're surrounding us. When I was getting bullied by teachers, by cops, by people closest to me, I couldn't hear. I had no idea what was happening. I had zero help. Nobody knew what was going on with me, and I kept it so quiet because I was so scared something worse was going to happen if I really started talking about it. And I was terrified of what that looked like. And I just dealt with it all alone. And I don't want anyone to think that they have to be alone. But if they are alone, to know that that's okay. If that's where you go because you feel the safest and that's what you need, there's nothing wrong with that. People make you feel so weird sometimes for not wanting to be connected always. And not all of us are designed like that. But it's okay too to connect. You don't always have to be alone. You don't have to be afraid. And you don't have to do what anyone else says or thinks you should. The calmer I get in the chaos, the more that I have sat in my anger and my sadness, my frustration, all of it, and I've cried it out, I've yelled it out. Oh, I tell you what, yelling "fuck that guy" feels so great sometimes. Like, yell it at the top of your lungs. Oh my God, it feels so good in those moments. But you let it out, you write it out, you whatever. And then you sit and you breathe, and then you stop looking for all the things that are wrong, that are hurting you, that are harmful. And you start looking around at all the things that aren't. All the things that are being peaceful. The trees, the clouds, the air, the birds, the wind, all of it. You get outside, you feel the grass between your toes. Let the sun soak into your skin. You go for a drive, you listen to your favorite music, you move your body, you dance, you run, you gym, you whatever feels good. You eat foods that nourish your home. You don't let the evil moments in life win. If you're looking for things that are wrong, you'll always be able to find them. But if you're looking for things that are right, you will always be able to find those too. The more you find gratitude every day for these little things, the more you start to hear your intuition, your inner guide, yourself. And the more you start to be able to hear that, the nicer you become to yourself, the kinder you become to others, and the more you see, it doesn't matter if he pulled you off that ladder. It happened. And you can't prove that it wasn't going to happen if it wasn't that way. Life is just going to happen however it happens. We cannot change a thing except for the way that we react to it. And if you want to be happy, if you want to be peaceful, if you want to be the person of your dreams, this is where it's all at. I mean that. You can't control others, but you can control yourself.